on our outstanding faculty. At King, we support our faculty's initiative to grow in their field of study and to have an experience that informs their teaching. Tonight, we have an example of that. Let me call Patrick O'Neill to the stage. Patrick is history teacher here, as well as the grade 9 dean. He was on sabbatical this summer to study the role of art in politics, and I've asked him to share with us how King's investment in him will benefit the students in his classroom. Patrick?
Thanks.
Go get him.
Good evening. Before I provide you with an overview of my sabbatical, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Tom Main, Alex Weiner, the PG&D committee, and the McDermott family for giving me the opportunity to travel to Northern Ireland. The trip was marvelous, and as I'll discuss, the material I gathered on the trip will become a central part of my new elective on Modern Ireland running this fall. In my short talk today, I want to invite you to step into my classroom. Imagine that you're a student experiencing my Modern Ireland class, and I'm sharing with you the learning and excitement that I gathered from my summer sabbatical. But before I delve into a sample of the murals I encountered on my trip, it's important to place the murals in some historical context, and so bear with me for a moment. After the Irish War of Independence in 1921, Ireland was partitioned, creating the Free State of Ireland, as you see there, known as the Republic, and Northern Ireland, a province that continues to remain inside the UK. Under English rule, Northern Ireland became a state dominated by Protestants who actively discriminated against the Irish Catholic minority. For years, many Catholics were unable to find suitable employment or housing. In the late 1960s, Irish Republicans, a militant group largely dominated by Irish Catholics, formed a highly disciplined paramilitary organization called the Provisional Irish Republican Army and waged open war against British security forces, soldiers, and military installations in order to emancipate Northern Ireland from English rule. Frightened by the scale of violence and terror, local loyalist groups, largely made up of Protestants who sought to maintain England's political influence in the region, also formed paramilitaries to defend their communities against the onslaught of the IRA. During the course of the conflict, Belfast and Derry, two major cities in the north, became battlegrounds where Republicans and Unionists, or Loyalists, fought to assert control over their respective neighborhoods. As the conflict raged, both communities designed murals along the sides of homes and businesses that served to mark the boundaries of control. This is the mural here. Progressively, these murals became historical markers intended to proclaim, honor, and preserve local understandings of the conflict. Heroes, martyrs, and key flashpoints in the conflict were mythologized in order to reinforce communal support. Although the conflict ended in 1998 with the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, both sides continue to use murals as storyboards to reflect on the past and critique the present political situation inside of Northern Ireland. For Republicans, the war is still going on. This is not over. And they believe that this is an enduring struggle. And I refer to it that way because it really is for them an enduring struggle. I had the opportunity to speak to several members of the Republican Party inside of Northern Ireland during my experience, otherwise known as Sinn Féin. And they are very much of the mind that this war is not over, they're just going to fight it by different means. And so they're using the political process in order to make that happen. And so as a result of this enduring struggle, what we seem to find inside the murals that Irish Republicans start to create after the Good Friday Agreement, we find that they begin to connect their struggle to other struggles that they perceive to be struggles of other ethno-cultural groups that seek self-determination, that seek an opportunity to remove themselves from what they believe to be a colonial power, or perceived to be a colonial power. Here we see inside this mural, inside of West Belfast, which is a Republican stronghold in the city, a mural that depicts a solidarity movement between the Irish Republicans, as we see on the left-hand side with the tricolor, and on the right-hand side, the Palestinian movement. Irish Republicans believe that this particular movement is a movement that seeks self-determination, and so they have lots of murals like this inside of West Belfast. But I wanted to show you this mural in particular because it is particularly powerful for reinforcing solidarity within the Republican movement. Both flags symbolize the solidarity, but in the center we see the prison bars. Irish Republicans during the conflict used the prisons as a potential battleground to fight against the British state. Most notably, they did this through hunger strikes. You may remember in the past, in 1981, that 10 IRA members actually sacrificed their lives in order to protest against the British state. They believe, Irish Republicans that is, that Palestinians who also serve under what they believe to be a colonial state are political prisoners. And so they reflect on this concept inside this particular mural. I want to draw your attention to the bottom right over here. You see a man named Bilal Qayed. He is an individual that's actually from recent memory. He was sentenced in 2001 for being an individual that was a part of a radical Palestinian group and was sentenced to 14 years in prison. After his term was up in 2015, the Israeli state placed him back in prison for administrative detention purposes. And as a result, he protested this by going on hunger strike, and he was subsequently released. So obviously the Republicans have this viewpoint that the hunger strikes of 1981 mirrors this event here, and so they look for this movement and reinforce solidarity with international movements that seek this self-determination. This is another feature, another mural that reflects a similar theme inside of West Belfast. This deals with a different ethno-cultural group. You can see on the right-hand side a small outlined map behind this tree. I'm sorry I couldn't move it. But that tree is blocking a small map of an area that's known as the Tamil State. The Tamil State no longer exists. It was inside of current-day Sri Lanka. It fell in 2009. But Republicans continue to believe that this particular movement will achieve independence, that they will release themselves from what they perceive to be a colonial state. And so at the very top of this mural, we see the words inevitable, that this is an inevitability, that this will happen, that this is going to happen. And obviously Republicans allow that to resonate with them because they believe the same thing is true of themselves. They believe the same thing is true of their particular movement inside of the UK at this point in time. At the bottom, you see this inscription inside of Gaelic that means our day will come. So this solidarity with this Tamil movement is very similar in some ways to the Palestinian movement, reflecting an international solidarity with what they perceive to be anti-colonial movements. On the loyalist side, we have other types of murals, and this is from the area known as East Belfast, which is a loyalist stronghold in that particular region. And these are the people that wanted to remain part of this particular Crown forces. And so what we see here is a very different style of mural, very, very different style. And this mural reflects a lot of the anger and the hostility that exists inside of loyalist communities today. What we see here on the left-hand side are two particular masked gunmen. These masked gunmen hark back to the time period of the Troubles and the conflict. They wear the balaclavas, they have the machine guns, and they're particularly from a paramilitary organization known as the UVF, which are loyalists. On the right-hand side, what we see are the words, "We seek nothing but the elementary right implanted in every man, the right if you are attacked to defend yourself." Loyalist communities at this point in time are suffering from bouts of gang violence, drug activity, high unemployment. And as a result, there is a real feeling inside of loyalist communities that they have lost the war, that while the Northern Irish state continues to exist inside of the UK, we still have in the loyalist communities feeling that the Republicans have actually won, that the real victors have been the Irish Republican Army rather than themselves. And so this mural almost suggests that they need to defend themselves. They need to actively recruit. They need to be on guard for the principles and the heritage that they fought to defend at this point in time. I don't mean to suggest that the loyalists are actively saying, let's join paramilitaries again and fight. There may be some that believe that. But the overall feeling in the community is one, they feel that they're under siege, and they feel that they're being attacked, and they need to defend themselves. So it's a very different style mural. What does all this mean for my students? I've given you three particular examples of hundreds of murals I saw inside of Northern Ireland during this time. I visited three major cities, Carrickfergus, Belfast, and Derry. And in each of these cities, I saw many, many, many different types of murals. And so what I want to do for students is to actively use these murals as primary documents. These murals show the feelings, the aspirations, the desires of people inside of these communities. And so they are very important documents for us to look at in order to assess change. How do these communities change their opinions over time? How do they feel now versus when they felt in 1981 or even 1979? Can we actively see that through these murals? I think we can. And so I'm going to be using them largely as primary documents. In addition to that particular purpose, students are going to simulate the construction of their own particular mural. When communities inside of places like Derry and Belfast and Carrickfergus create murals, they need to make some conscious decisions as to what types of things they want inside those murals. And they need to gather as a community to construct those ideas. This is particularly true inside of Irish Republican neighborhoods. There's an active collaboration. There's an active discussion. And I want my students to simulate the same exact thing. They're going to be developing an actual mural that's a triptych, or in three pieces, for the three major units that I have in this Modern Ireland course. And what the students are going to do in three successive order pieces is begin to have those conversations. The question I've asked them is, what is the Irish story? If you wanted to tell the story of Ireland and the struggle that exists inside of Ireland, what would you do it with? Would you do it with words? Would you do it with people? Would you do it with symbols? How would you go about reflecting on those particular events? And I want them to have those conversations, and they're going to simulate those conversations consistently inside of my class as they construct this particular mural. This reinforces collaboration. It reinforces problem solving. It reinforces things that we want our students to consistently do every day inside of class, and I hope they achieve the same thing. At the end of this particular process, we have the privilege and the opportunity to actually hang this mural inside of the Ireland's Great Hunger Museum, which is located in Hamden, Connecticut. Now, that particular museum is largely devoted to the potato famine, and so when you go there, what you're going to see is a lot of art from different artists of different periods that are interested in this particular type of concept, but they've generously given us a space for us to put our mural in at the end of this particular project. So this is really an authentic assessment. Students are really motivated by this. They're really interested in doing this well and learning the Irish story well because they're interested in the topic, but they're also going to have something on display that represents their conversations, that represents their views, that represents their understanding of this particular Irish story. And so it's a very powerful project that I'm looking forward to developing. It's my first year doing it, and I'm very excited about the process. I'm not an artist myself, so I'm not going to be helping them out with the actual logistics of this. I have the art department enlisted in helping us. Connie Nichols has been very, very helpful in this process. She's actually coming in next week to speak to our students about the process of developing this mural and what goes on from an art standpoint, and I'll help out more with the content standpoint. So we're really taking these two departments and working together to make this happen for our students. At first, I definitely have to say that some of our students were a little bit nervous about the art side, and that's okay. I teach the students that it's okay to feel uncomfortable. Get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, and I'll give you the resources necessary to get you there. So that's what we're going to do with this particular project, and I'm very excited about it. I started my talk by thanking several people inside of this room at this moment for the opportunity to travel to Northern Ireland, but I also wanted to thank you, the parents. Your generous contributions to the annual fund really make opportunities like Northern Ireland a real possibility. It makes it possible for me to go to places like Northern Ireland and see these kinds of murals and bring this stuff back in the classroom, which I know that our students will benefit from. So from the faculty's perspective, we thank you very much. Thank you for your time.